Black Hand. In the city of In, there was a hotel known for its terrible reputation. Above the door of one of its rooms glowed a red lamp. This meant that people disappeared in that room. One day, a young man came to the hotel asking for a place to stay. The manager replied that there were no vacancies except for that very room with the red lamp. The young man wasn't afraid and decided to spend the night there. By morning, he had vanished without a trace. That same evening, another man arrived. This one had just returned from military service. The hotel manager offered him the same ominous room. But this man was different. He didn't sleep on mattresses or feather beds and preferred lying on the floor wrapped in a blanket. He also suffered from insomnia. That night was no exception. 11 o'clock passed. Midnight approached. Still, he couldn't sleep. Suddenly, from beneath the bed came a click, a rustle, and then, out of the darkness, a black hand emerged. It reached out with terrifying force and snatched the pillow, dragging it under the bed. The man jumped to his feet, quickly dressed, and went to find the hotel manager. But the manager was nowhere to be found. He wasn't in the building and not at home either. So the guest called the police and asked them to come to the hotel immediately. The police began a thorough investigation. One of the officers noticed that the bed was fastened to the floor with strange screws. They unscrewed them and pushed the bed aside. What they found was shocking. Beneath the bed was a chest, and on one of its inner walls was a button. When they pressed it, the chest's lid sprang open silently but swiftly. From inside, the black hand popped out again. It was attached to a thick steel spring. The officers quickly detached and removed the hand for further investigation. Then they moved the chest and discovered a hole in the floor beneath it. When they climbed down through the opening, they found themselves standing before 7 doors. They opened the first door and were horrified by what they saw. Inside were lifeless, bloodless corpses. The officers stood in stunned silence before the horrifying scene behind the first door. Lifeless, pale bodies stacked in rows. Not a drop of blood remained in them. With growing dread, they moved to the second door. When they opened it, the room inside was filled with skeletons, neatly arranged along the walls, as if someone had carefully cleaned each body and stacked the remains like museum exhibits. The third door revealed something even more grotesque. Inside were human skins completely emptied, hanging from hooks like clothing in a butcher's shop. The skins looked so fresh that some still had strands of hair attached to them. Behind the fourth door, they discovered fresh corpses, still dripping blood. Beneath them were metal basins collecting the blood as it flowed from the bodies, guided through slits in their skin. The smell was unbearable. When they opened the fifth door, they froze in shock. The room was a gruesome laboratory. People in white coats were inside, meticulously dissecting bodies, removing organs, and processing them with clinical precision. The scene was cold and industrial, completely devoid of humanity. The sixth door opened to reveal long metallic tables, and along them stood people busily packing blood into sealed plastic bags. Some were labeling the packets, others placing them into refrigerated containers. The operation was well organized. This was clearly no random madness, but a system built for mass production. But the seventh door, that one, left the officers speechless. Inside was a single high-backed chair. Sitting on it was a man, calm and composed, dressed in a black suit. It was the hotel director himself, the very man who had claimed there were no vacancies, who had knowingly sent guests into that cursed room with the red lamp. The police immediately surrounded the director, weapons drawn, but he didn't resist. Instead, he calmly confessed everything. At that time, there was a war raging between two powerful nations. As with any war, there was an immense demand for donor blood, fresh, clean, and in large quantities. One of the warring countries approached the hotel director with an offer. They would pay him a massive sum of money if he could secretly supply them with human blood. The director agreed. He came up with a chilling plan. The hotel would act as a front. The room with the red lamp would be used to capture victims. The black hand mechanism installed in a hidden chest beneath the bed was designed to terrify and distract the guest long enough for them to be gassed or injected through the floor trap, then dragged down into the underground facility. Once underground, the bodies would go through several stages: draining, skin removal, organ harvesting, blood packing, storage, and transport. The entire operation was run like a factory, with scientists and workers handling the grisly process under the hotel itself. Everything was timed and calculated to avoid suspicion. Hundreds of people had disappeared. Most of them were travelers, students, or drifters, people who wouldn't be missed right away. Every time someone went missing, the police found no evidence, because the crimes were so well hidden. But now, it was over. The entire system was dismantled. The laboratory was shut down. The staff and scientists were arrested. The director was tried and sentenced to life in prison. The hotel itself was renovated and brought back to normal. A new manager was appointed. The cursed red lamp above the door was removed for good, and since then, the city of An has known only peaceful nights, and people sleep without fear. No more haunted rooms, no more disappearances. Only dreams.